Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome to this ASMR video on the history of healing crystals. This is an ASMR video for either meditation or sleep. So sit back and relax, or even fall asleep as I tell you the fascinating story of how crystals and gemstones became tools for healing. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit the subscribe and like buttons. It helps my channel to get noticed. Also, I wish to let you know that I now have a new feature on my channel that looks like a heart icon with a $sign. It's right under this video where the like icon is. You might have to scroll over to see it. The new feature has now been enabled so that you, the viewer, can contribute to my channel. Any contribution is greatly appreciated because I now have made this my livelihood. I do this, my brothers and sisters, so that I can keep bringing you groovy content. So let's get to it. Take a nice, slow, deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And at your own pace, go ahead and repeat that 3 or 4 times. And get comfortable. Grab your favorite pillow. Feel free to either watch the video or close your eyes. These crystals and esoteric items I have here are from my own collection. I thought it might be nice to watch as a type of meditation. So drift off to sleep if you wish, or just relax and unwind as we enter into the world of crystals and the powers they possess. It is fair to say that as long as we have existed as a species, we've had an affinity with stones and crystals. The use of talismans and amulets dates back to the beginnings of humankind, although we have no way of knowing how the earliest of these objects were viewed or used. Many early pieces were organic in origin. Beads carved of mammoth ivory have been excavated from a grave in Samgyur, Russia, dating back 60,000 years. Which is the Upper Paleolithic period, as well as contemporary beads made from shell and fossil shark's teeth. The oldest amulets are of Baltic amber, some from as long as 30,000 years ago. And amber beads were discovered in Britain from 10,000 years ago, the end of the last ice age. The distance they traveled to reach Britain shows their value to the people of that time. Jet was also popular, and jet beads, bracelets, and necklaces have been discovered in the Paleolithic grave sites in Switzerland and Belgium. There have been malachite mines in Sinai since 4000 BC. Amulets were banned by the Christian Church in 355 AD, but gemstones continued to play an important role, with sapphire being the favored gem for ecclesiastical rings in the 12th century. Marbodus, the Bishop of Rennes in the 11th century, claimed that agate would make the wearer more agreeable, persuasive, and in favor of God. There were also many symbolic references, such as carbuncle representing Christ's sacrifice. The first historical references to the use of crystals come from the ancient Sumerians, who included crystals in magic formulas. The ancient Egyptians used lapis lazuli, turquoise, carnelian, emerald, and clear quartz in their jewelry. They also carved grave amulets of the same gems. The ancient Egyptians used stones primarily for protection and health. Chrysolite, later translated as both topaz and peridot, was used to combat night terrors and purge evil spirits. Egyptians also used crystals cosmetically. Galena, or lead ore, was ground to a powder and used as the eyeshadow known as kohl. That would be K-O-H-L. Malachite was used in a similar manner. Green stones in general were used to signify the heart of the deceased and were included in burials. Green stones were used in a similar way at a later period in ancient Mexico. Using softer crystals such as gypsum and hematite, ancient Sumerians created cylinder seals that could be inscribed with images and phrases in cuneiform. These seals often featured carved depictions of one's station in life, important events such as birth and marriage and religious ceremonies. Because gypsum and hematite were thought to have protective properties, these cylinders were often placed in temples and used during spiritual ceremonies. Perhaps the most well-known use of healing crystals throughout history dates back to ancient Egyptian times. Ancient Egyptians held a complex polytheistic belief system. Their religion featured multiple deities, each in control of a unique worldly element. Royalty or individuals in high social standing often adorned themselves with these certain crystals and stones in honor of their revered gods and goddesses. Royal ladies, for instance, often donned jewelry featuring crushed lapis lazuli stones, which were associated with Isis, the goddess of the sky. People still favor lapis lazuli jewelry to this day due to its powers of intuition and spiritual enlightenment. Stones and crystals were also placed in crowns and amulets in order to stimulate and open the third eye chakra. Some ancient Egyptians were even buried with quartz crystals on their foreheads. This was meant to provide safe travel as they moved into the afterlife. Quartz was also used to balance the Ba and Ka energies within one's soul. The Ka is one's individual life force, something everyone is believed to be born with. The Ba, on the other hand, represents unique aspects of one's individual personality, such as their humor, kindness, or charm. Carrying quartz helped ancient Egyptians combine these two aspects of their soul and find balance within themselves. Ancient Greek beliefs and mythology play a large role in our modern understanding of healing stones and crystals. The word crystal is actually derived from the Greek word krustelos, meaning ice. The ancient Greeks believed that clear crystals, such as quartz, were eternal ice sent down from the heavens. Additionally, amethyst stones got their name from an ancient Greek myth involving the goddess Diana and Dionysus, the god of wine. Due to its association with the often inebriated Dionysus, amethyst was used as a means of maintaining sobriety, and is still used in this way today. The word amethyst means not drunken, and was worn as an amulet to prevent both drunkenness and hangovers. Hematite comes from the word for blood because of the red coloration produced when it oxidizes. Hematite is an iron ore, and the ancient Greeks associated iron with Ares, the god of war. Greek soldiers would rub hematite over their bodies before battle, purportedly to make themselves invulnerable. Greek sailors often wore a variety of amulets to keep them safe at sea. Jade was highly valued in ancient China, and some Chinese written characters represent jade beads. Musical instruments in the form of chimes were made from jade around 1,000 years ago. Chinese emperors were sometimes buried in jade armor. Jade was recognized as a kidney healing stone in both China and South America. More recently, dating from about 250 years ago, the Maori of New Zealand wore jade pendants representing the ancestor spirits, which were passed down many generations through the male line. The tradition of green stones being lucky continues in parts of New Zealand to this day. Crystals and gemstones have played a part in all religions. They are mentioned throughout the Bible, in the Quran, and many other religious texts. The origin of birthstones is the breastplate of Aaron, or the high priest breastplate, as mentioned in the book of Exodus. In the Quran, the fourth heaven is composed of carbuncle, which is garnet. The kalpa tree, which represents an offering to the gods in Hinduism, is said to be made entirely of precious stone. And a Buddhist text from the 7th century describes a diamond throne situated near the tree of knowledge. On this throne, 1,000 Kalpa Buddhas reposed. The Kalpa Sutra in Jainism speaks of Harinigams, the divine commander of the foot troops, who seized 14 precious stones, cleansed them of their lesser qualities, and retained only their finest essence to aid his transformations. There is also an ancient sacred lapidary treatise, a formal written analysis, the Ratnaparishka of Buddhahabhata. Some sources state that it is Hindu, but it is most likely Buddhist. The date is uncertain, but is probably from the 6th century. In this treatise, diamonds figure highly as the king of gemstones and are ranked according to caste. The Sanskrit word for diamond, Vajra, is also the word for the Hindu goddesses Indra's thunderbolt, and diamonds are often associated with thunder. The ruby was also highly revered. It represents an inextinguishable flame and was purported to preserve both the physical and mental health of the wearer. The treatise lists many other gemstones and their properties. The practical use of healing stones and crystals persisted well into the Middle Ages. During this time, which spanned roughly 300 CE to 1500 CE or Common Era, crystals and stones became heavily researched. Lapidaries, or tomes that explained the properties and uses of various stones and gems, began to emerge. The oldest remaining lapidary can be traced back to Theophrastus, an ancient Greek successor of Aristotle. Though his lapidary predated this era by several hundred years, Theophrastus's tome was still widely referenced throughout the Middle Ages and well into the Renaissance era. The lapidaries of this time spoke not only of the physical properties of certain stones, such as their reaction when exposed to fire, but also of their metaphysical healing and spiritual properties, including their abilities to ward off certain diseases and particular mental states. In Europe, from the 11th century through the Renaissance, a number of medical treatises appeared extolling the virtues of precious and semi-precious stones in the treatment of certain ailments. Typical stones were used alongside herbal remedies. During the Renaissance, the tradition of using precious stones in healing was still accepted, but the inquiring minds of the period sought to find out how the process actually worked and give it a more scientific explanation. In the early part of the 19th century, a number of interesting experiments were conducted to demonstrate the effects of stones on subjects who believed themselves to be clairvoyant. In many cases, the subject claimed to feel not only physical and emotional changes when touched with various stones, but also to experience smells and tastes. As the century passed on and the emergence of New Age culture sparked to life in the 1970s and 80s, healing gemstones saw a rebirth of their own, growing again in popularity as people drew on the many ancient traditions and beliefs. During this time, crystal therapy emerged as a means of healing physical, mental, and spiritual ailments, and people continue to practice it widely to this day. Healing crystals and gemstones have a long and storied past throughout history, used for medical healing and metaphysical enlightenment. Crystals have brought peace and protection to many people for hundreds of years. The use of healing crystals continues to this day, spanning cultures and religious beliefs. Obsidian is a strongly protective stone. It's said to form a shield against negativity. It blocks psychic attack and absorbs negative energies from the environment. Obsidian can draw out mental stress and tension. Obsidian dissolves emotional blockages and ancient traumas. It's a truth-enhancing stone, a strongly protective stone. Aquamarine is another very beautiful stone and is noted by its blue, beautiful color. Spiritually, aquamarine is associated with trusting and letting go. In ancient times, aquamarine was believed to be the treasure of mermaids. Sailors used to use the stone as a talisman to bring good luck on open waters. The gem was also used as a symbol of protection and fearlessness too. Aquamarine is a stone of courage. Its calming energies reduce stress and quiet the mind. Aquamarine has an affinity with sensitive people. It can evoke tolerance of others and overcomes judgmentalism, giving support to those overwhelmed by responsibility. Aquamarine is also associated with tranquility, serenity, clarity, and harmony. As the first of the spring birthstones, the sea blue crystal represents transformation and rebirth. It embodies youthful vitality, purity, loyalty, hope, and truth. Clear quartz is a powerfully protective stone. It dispels negativity and clears away negative energy. It can be used to purify and clarify on the spiritual, mental, and physical planes. Stones are used at chakra centers for clearing, revitalizing, and healing. Crystal wands are used to open the chakras. Crystals are living beings, incredibly old and wise, and willing to communicate when an individual is open and ready to receive. Wearing, carrying, or meditating with crystals opens the mind and heart to a higher guidance, allowing the realm of spirit to be transmitted and translated into the world of physical form. Crystals amplify whatever energy or intent you program into it, and it continues to broadcast that energy throughout the world and into etheric realms. This helps to accelerate the fulfillment of one's wishes and prayers, and it intensifies healing and spiritual growth. You can simply allow the crystal to hold a pattern of energy long enough and strongly enough for the manifestation of a goal to occur. Crystals produce a force field of healing negative ions while clearing the surroundings of positive ions, protecting your aura. They dispel static electricity, and they cancel out the harmful effects of radiation, radioactivity. They bring strength and clarity to your intellect, can aid in concentration and memory retention. They help to filter out distractions. The hypnotic quality of crystals are conducive to sleep, helping one to understand the messages and lessons conveyed during the dream state. Nikola Tesla once said, "In a crystal, we have clear evidence of the existence of a formative life principle, and though we cannot understand the life of a crystal, it is nonetheless a living being." At the turn of the century, Nikola Tesla, a renowned inventor, electrical and mechanical engineer, physicist, and futurist, declared all things in the universe are forms of energy with their own frequency and vibration, and proved how certain forms of energy can alter the vibrational resonance of other forms of energy. This is why many continue to believe in the power of crystals and other stones in healing practices. Obviously, the ancients may not have been aware of this in any scientific basis, but numerous cultures have long utilized stones in healing, protection, and spiritual practices. Crystals are made up of different elements and compounds, which our bodies react to in different ways. Crystals are minerals that hold energy, and as we humans are made up of energy, we can exchange this energy with the crystals when we work with them. An open mind is key to obtaining the positive qualities these beautiful stones can offer. Whether it's overall good energy you want or specific healing powers, there's nothing wrong with giving crystals an honest try. Who knows, you might be pleasantly surprised. Thank you for listening. I'll leave you now with some wonderful music to sleep by. Good night, my friend.